Last week I made some beats that were, well, at best, whack, to use a kind of 1990s term. Can I rectify that this week? Let's see. I suspect I can. I used to make a living as a beat maker, not for hit records or drum and bass tracks, no, for soundtracks for the likes of Anne Dudley, Harry Gregson Williams. So I really should be able to nail this beat thing. Last week I was solely in the domain of the electronic drum, and whilst we embrace the electronic drum, the way I've always used them is merely as an ingredient. So what do we need to create a beat that's believable, commercial, functional, funky? We need samples. The only problem being, my sample collection where beats are concerned are very much of their age. So if this concept is proven and this is the way I move forward with the album, it's very likely that I'll have to replenish stocks with something a little bit more contemporary. Into the Distinct Mark IV, the loops, which are going into one of the two modules we didn't talk about last week, the Erica Synth Dual Drive, which is two identical overdrive circuits with manual gain and drive controls, CV control with attenuator over gain and drive, and a mode switch for selecting one of three overdrive flavours. Crunchy. Next up, Erica Synth's sample drum, which I've fallen in love with. It's a little beauty with a cute little screen. When the SD card is loaded, you get this menu. Simply load a sample into its memory. You have two trigger locations. So I'm going to load the kick into trigger 1. And then you'll hear that it's playing back already. We can tune it here. And I like the sound, but there's a kind of what that I need to get rid of. It's basically sampled off a record. So let's have a look at the ADSR here. Oh, so cute. Let's make it a bit more curvy. Perfect. Right, onto trigger 2, we're going to put the rim. So into File, Rim, and this is just going to give us the snap we need. So the drum sequencer is synced via MIDI clock to the Poly-N SICK, and I've currently got patterns 1 and 2 chained together. Here's the bass drum from the Erica Synth's bass drum module. So that kind of punchy, nice. I like the way the accents are working. But let's throw in our new sampled kick. Nice bouncy flavour there. Next up, a biscuit tin full of sand. And this is when we're really going to need the rim to create that all-important snappy sound. That's all it takes. Next up, hi-hats. And then not forgetting that the open hi-hat comes on a separate trigger out. This is a 32-note sequence, so we're waiting for it to come in. Here we go. And finally, our clap. Okay, let's bring on the noise. It sounds like the kind of beat Beyonce would have likely rejected exactly 17 years ago. But we're getting somewhere, so I'm going to roll with this. I've got someone to introduce you to. Meet Kellen. Kellen, the Modular Monday posse.
Hello?
Kellen has moved over from, where are you from originally?
Colorado, originally.
Excellent. To join what is the growing Edinburgh Massive here, a crew that we hope to be building, and Kellen's going to be doing wonderful composition work of your own. And I'm throwing Kellen under the truck today because we're going to do a modular performance. This is the preparation for a contextual video regarding a new, really exciting collaboration. And where this collaboration's concerned, the project, it kind of stirs the inner Steve in me, but not marimbas and bass clarinets. Electronic systems. For many people of my generation, my age of nerds, The first piece of electronic minimalism that really stuck in our heads would have been by a band called Tangerine Dream, specifically their piece Love on a Real Train. It accompanied a scene from a film called Risky Business, where a school kid with a massive middle tooth shagged a gelfling on a subway train in slow motion, but it hadn't been shot in slow motion, so it was a bit jerky. This piece, though, is very much an homage to Steve Reich's Music for a Large Ensemble. It's even in the same key. And the thing about Steve Reich's Music for a Large Ensemble is it employs the use of phasing, but not like as in Neutron biphase. He basically started with a thing called It's Gonna Rain, which was a recording that he duplicated on 2 tape machines and put them at slightly different speeds, and he observed how they slowly went out of phase with each other and created very interesting kind of complex polyrhythms. He followed that with hand clapping music, violin phase, piano phase, but also his seminal drumming, where everyone's playing the same pattern on these bongos and they gradually get faster and go out of time until they synchronize into each other but out of phase, so a 16th or a quaver along, going all the way around until they're all back together again. It's impossibly difficult to play, and if I'm honest, a bit of a chore to listen to. But he took these experiments and created larger orchestral works, which I'm glad to report are eminently listenable, incredibly hypnotic when you're not there watching it live, but live it's like vaudeville. And an incredible piece called 6 Pianos, which has 6 pianos kind of going in and out of phase. And this jam will contain an element of 6 pianos alongside an homage to Tangerine's homage to Music for a Large Ensemble, with a beat that would have been turned down by Beyoncé exactly 17 years ago. Let's move on to the sequenced synth material, starting with my favourite but also least favourite module in the Frankensynth, the diminutive 2 HP pluck, which delivers the authentic kind of Tangerine Dream sound but is an absolute bastard to tune. Me doing this has probably moved it by half a semitone, just wafting my hand in front of it. So let's have a listen to that. So we've got that going into an Erica Fusion VCF, which is giving it just that little bit of grit there. Now this part is actually meant to be a 2-note riff, which should have a C in it. So what I've done is I've employed the mutable instruments plats to provide that harmony. So I've got those both going into the Erica Fusion VCF, so treating it as one, and then I've just added a little bit of echophon. Next up is the Make Noise STO combined with a Bafako ADSR and the Tangle Quartet 4-way VCA. Apply a liberal amount of magneto. Finally, we have the Future Sound System's cyclical engine combined with Pip Slope and the Tangle Quartet to create this sound, with a liberal amount of the Erica Synth's Black Hole applied. So altogether it sounds like this. And yes, I will tune it before the jam. Which is okay, but it's very kind of still. So I've got 2 maths in cycle mode, slowly oscillating and cross-oscillating filters and dampening and all sorts of opening and closing of doors. The idea is that these are threads that weave in and out. And what you will hear today after today's jam is just like a board mix straight from the computer. But when I actually come to mix the final contextual, I'm going to eke out different elements of it as and when the filters or the dampening or the shapes open and close. So it sounds a little bit like this. So So the next bit is really exciting. This is when I get to very quickly achieve that goal of minimalist phasing, but within a modular synth. So what I'm going to do is, as it plays, is alter the length of these sequences so they go out of phase. So you'll see that there's a straight line that moves across, and as I alter the length, that'll go out of phase, creating a much more complex synth tapestry. So here's it in phase, and you'll see I'll alter the first part, which is these two oscillators here, by just a 16th note. Then I'll alter these two by even more. Could listen to that all day, and I think that definitely makes me a nerd. So that's the kind of ostinato-y synthy stuff, and we've got this bass sound which is coming from, I believe, the MCO. And you'll see, compared to the rest of the sequence, this is actually working in half time. And again, I've got it connected to these maths units to open and close the fart. This is all routed via the Bafako mixer and is sharing a channel with this final sequenced element, which is an 808. So I just switch between the two of those. But to spice things up a bit, I'm using the Erica Fusion plasma drive, basically passing the 808 through some lightning. So when I spoke of these different kind of ostinatos, things weaving in and out, as they weave in and out, I'm going to listen to them live during the jam and actually pull those out a little bit with the piano, not necessarily the exact sequence in its exact phase. I'm going to pull out the kind of the notes that I'm hearing, the melodies that these phasing synth elements are forming, and I'm going to try and pick those out with the piano as tight as I can. And I wanted Kellen to play kind of a lead line as per the Tangerine Dream track with the Wurlitzer, but we powered it up for the first time, and this is really rather depressing, in a long time, and the very familiar smell of burning 1960s kit happened. This got really hot and it didn't produce a noise. So this is going to have to go to the doctors. So I've basically nominated the Summit, a nice belly sound with a massive delay on it that we've just synchronized by hand for Kellen to play the kind of lead line, if you will. So before Kellen and I sit down for this electronic minimalism jam with a beat that Beyonce probably would have rejected 17 years ago, it's time for some... First item doesn't actually pose any threat to your marriage because it's just what an industrial designer has done with a Korg Minilog. However, I would advise deleting your browsing history for this next item, or indeed using a different browser altogether. Opera is my preferred. The Black Corporation has released a new version of their Deckard's Dream CS80 type thingy, a Mark II that I even saw J.J. Abrams of Star Wars fame moonlighting from his day job to take a look at. Our very own Composer magazine has an amazing feature about Suzanne Ciani and her Buchla 200E modular system. Andrew Wang can put you firmly on a pathway to divorce litigation with his selection of must-haves when setting up a modular system. And Look Mum No Computer, if you haven't checked this guy out, go link below, subscribe straight away. He's awesome. He makes a selection of filters based on the Elka Synth-X synthesizer. So here we go, an homage to Tangerine Dream's homage to music for a large orchestra by Steve Reich, with elements of 6 pianos and a drum beat that Beyonce probably wouldn't have liked 17 years ago. And it's worth bearing in mind, this is just the board mix. This is me laying down, whoa! It's just the kind of core ingredients, the beginnings of a contextual demo for a collaboration that will be revealed to you in the forthcoming weeks. So it's worth subscribing, dinging that bell to be notified the next time I put a video up, and one of those to Kellen, and hopefully what is going to be a prosperous tenure here in Edinburgh. See you next time.